Well, speaking of cyber breaches and cyber strengths, any cyber attack against a U.S. government sets off alarm bells with reason. During an intelligence hearing yesterday, National Intelligence Director James Clapper spoke about the recent large-scale attack against the U.S. government's HR department, sometimes called OPM, Office of Personnel Management.
There is potentially, and I emphasize the word potentially, a great risk. It's certainly in the case of intelligence people, particularly those assigned overseas, and in certain covered categories. That's a great concern of ours.
With me now, Christy Setzer, Democratic strategist and New Heights Communications president, Katherine Timpf from the National Review Reporter. Welcome to you both. So, Christy, can this stolen data be used to hurt U.S. diplomats, American agents who are in sensitive missions?
That's certainly the concern. I mean, look, I think that Clapper and others are wisely being very sober in what they're saying publicly, but I'm certain that behind the scenes, yes, there's a great deal of concern as to how this information is going to be used.
Okay, now going to you, Katherine, I mean, most assume the Chinese government were behind that OPM breach. Which politician has been the clearest to you with a game plan of what kind of risk hacks like these represent?
Well, we're not really talking about it enough in general. Remember how much people made fun of Mitt Romney for talking about it as a threat, and now look at what happened. It's not something that people generally like talking about because it doesn't translate well to things like TV or that kind of outrage. And also, you can't really see the negative effects right away. So people are just like, oh, well, we'll see what happens. But by then, it'll be too late.
So, Christy, by then it will be too late. What is your take on how the Democratic side is handling this? Plans, we're in an election season. Who do you think is going to be toughest on cybercrime?
I mean, well, it's a great question, but you don't want to get ahead of yourself. Look, especially when we're talking about China, it's really easy to do a lot of saber rattling, which you've seen from the Republicans. You've seen from Mike Huckabee and others who've said, cancel the meeting with the Chinese premier, impose economic sanctions. And as you know, even the White House has alluded to that as well. But I think you really need to be strategic here. If there's going to be a White House meeting towards the end of the month with China, do we really want to go so far and, impose economic sanctions or something else where we're actually going to have a counterproductive effect and stave off the possibility of an actual conversation that might be productive on cybersecurity and other issues with China? That's what we really need to balance right now.
All right, the conversation will continue. Christy Setzer joining us there, Democratic strategist, Katherine Timpf, National Review Reporter. Speaking of hacks, ISIS sympathizers are reportedly threatening hack attacks today on the anniversary of 9/11.